Today's episode is brought to you by Kid Veen. Everyone has a sinister side. Discover your inner demon and satisfy your dark fantasies by joining the fast-growing gang of misfits currently wearing Kid Veen. Go to www.kidveen.com and use the code CREATIVE at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Every time one of you guys uses this code, I actually get a kickback. Affiliate links and sponsorship programs are one of the few ways to actually get a little bit of money back for content on this platform. So if you like the podcast and want to show some support, this is one of the best ways you can do it. Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Creative Appetite. Today I am joined by my really, really good friend, Robbie Edwards, or Rob Edwards for short. He is a traveling musician and a really dear friend of mine, and I'm so glad to have him on. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Hello. It's actually Robert. And then
Robbie for short.
for short. But hey.
Why not? At this point,
You do you.
Anything is possible. It's all the same now. Oh man, I've been waiting so long to have you come on the podcast. It's been like, ever since I started, I had like a list of people, and you're literally, I can show you the list in my phone. You're on the list. Yeah, shit, you're not. And I was like, all right, I don't normally get my phone out in these podcasts, but I definitely want to show you this. And I was like, oh my God, when you messaged me last night, you're like, hey, I'm in town. What the? Oh, yeah.
That's why you don't get your phone out.
Yeah, literally. Oh, because I was just reading like something in my note. I was like, what? That's weird. Oh, where are you? Adelaide. Look, there's two people in Adelaide, and you're one of them. Yeah.
Damn.
I've literally had you on that list.
House of Darwin. Just for everybody, this is the list. House of Darwin, which is an insane, awesome.
My friend, he owns that brand.
Oh, Shawnee.
Yeah.
I know I've Insta-stalked him, but like amazing clothing brand in Darwin that do all this work with Indigenous community out in Arnhem Land, building basketball courts. And
It's crazy. It's so crazy.
I like desperately want to do some work with them. Sachem.
Yeah.
I met him in Darwin.
Yeah.
We
I want
did
to
like
get
a
him
song
on too.
together.
He's a legend.
We played together at Middle Market.
I've never met him, but I watched him play.
Baller. He's just in Brizzy.
I know. I got to hit him up.
Manja base. Ethanol blend.
That'd be good. That'd be fierce.
Look, that's a good list.
It's a solid list, hey?
It's a great thing. Oh, and just goals. Like you've listed that goals. You're ticking them off.
I can tick that off now.
You can tick that off.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
There's some
on that.
good goals to work towards too here. Look at you. And they're ticked as well.
Yeah, the ones that I've already got on. It's crazy.
That's some good stuff.
But we should put the phone away now. But yeah, man.
So that was just pictures of his brunch?
No, that was actually just selfies. Man, what have you been doing? What's been going on? We haven't seen each other.
Like a year?
A year? No.
It was the summer.
When we met.
Yeah,
when we met, that was back in 2020. 2020.
Really?
Yeah, 2020 was when we met.
Time is a construct.
In June 2020. Because that's when I came back. No, July 2020 is when we met.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and we haven't seen each other since then. So
wow.
I'll give you a bit of context. Yesterday. I feel like we need context. So for anyone listening, Rob and I met briefly at another friend of ours. He has a clothing brand down in Adelaide called Yo House at Port Elliot. It's a super sick brand. Check it out. We started talking about film cameras, which you can see here. The one to my right or your left is the Nikonos, which was purchased by me from our dear friend Billy, and that's how we all became friends. And then since then I haven't seen Rob, and he's been traveling around playing music to all these amazing people, and now we've finally somehow managed to link up in the same location, and you're in the home studio, and I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, wow. Now that you put it like that, I was like, oh.
God damn.
Yeah, time.
So yeah, what's been going on? Like, explain what you do to people.
That's a good start, actually. What I do to people.
Explain what you do to people.
I make you feel. Kind of. That's a good place because like when you just say what have you been up to, I was like, what do you want to go? For the last 6 years, it's been non-stop. So I was like, I can't ever keep up. Like I can reflect sometimes, but I never really know. But to the point, I am a musician, singer-songwriter, producer. Enthusiast of life. But it's kind of like, it's not a job for me. It's more of a way of lifestyle. So it is harder to describe anything. But basically, yeah, I pay the bills by playing music. I've been doing this now for 6 years. Simple math in my head. Might need the calculator. It's been about 6 years now, full-time musician, and just on my own little journey, just building along, and like it's just a part of life. Like there's so much other things that go on, but then the music is impacted by everything, and everything is impacted by the music. So, but I love traveling and living in vans, and
it's so inspiring. Sharing. Like, I guess for people out there that want to live your kind of lifestyle, it's inspiring to, I guess, even for me, like I want to move back into a van after like living in one for so long. I want to go back to it because I feel like drawn to that. But to be able to like travel around the country and play music and literally pay your bills by doing something that you truly love is so inspiring, because not a lot of people out there get to live that kind of lifestyle. Like, and whether it be through like lack of confidence and not going out and chasing their own like passions, or just getting caught up in the rat race, and then I don't know, they have kids or whatever life throws at them. So
it's scary sometimes though. Like I wouldn't say it's an easy thing to do, but no. nothing good comes easy,
right?
But yeah, it's quite hard sometimes, and a lot of sacrifice to do it. Like I'm so mindful now of how much I have to sacrifice and had to in the past to make this a reality. And I understand that it's not for everyone, but it is. If you like, certain people are drawn to this lifestyle, and if you are drawn to it, then it's like the best thing it's the best memories you'll ever have. And just like you grow so much, like there's no way of avoiding growth and change and awareness, and like you can't run away from that kind of stuff when you're by yourself in a van in the middle of nowhere without you're in some town, you don't know anybody in that town, and you're just like, cool. But it's amazing. And I mean, I don't often go back too much and reflect on how I've gotten here, but I should, because it is wonderful. Like there's been some incredible times, incredibly tough times.
Yeah.
But like some beautiful, beautiful times. And like just to be here, like right now, everything that's led to this is just beautiful.
It's like the culmination of life. I don't know if that makes sense, but like even for me with the podcast, it's like all these creative outlets that I had previously in my life, or even just jobs that I've had, like without you knowing, subconsciously your life just leads you to where you need to be. I know that sounds really stupid and cliche, but like when you, I don't know, people listening like at my age maybe feel the same, or people older than me will have a bit more wisdom and experience, but like things like shift, and like your life just happens, and then all of a sudden you just find yourself in this place where you fully, like as we were chatting before off air, off the podcast, was that like, I lost my train of thought, but like, yeah, like you find yourself completely, truly happy within yourself. And then for some reason, like the happiness and energy around that provides you with opportunities, because you're giving yourself to the world, but you're like comfortable with like the scariness of like, oh, maybe things aren't going to work out, but at least I know at the end of the day, like the people around me and my friends and my life, like I'm truly happy with that. Like, I don't know.
Does it make you think that like possibly we block these opportunities ourselves, so that when we like lower our guards and are open to failure and then success, like you open yourselves up to these opportunities, that's when they come? So it's like it was you blocking it the whole time.
Yeah, like
instead of like it being like life's super hard on at the moment. It's like you change your perspective and you deal with the things that are preventing you from these things, and then all of a sudden they start coming. You're like, oh, all these opportunities now. It's like, but now like it's like you can't listen if you don't. You can't hear if you don't listen.
Yeah, and literally, it's like it is that. Like I like recently, I've had so many wonderful opportunities being presented to me from people that I've had on the podcast, and it's like crazy. Like I've got merch coming out soon that I'm working like proper fashion label quality shirts.
Definitely want to rep that.
Yeah. So everyone listening, that is coming out very soon. It's only going to be a limited run of shirts. It's literally all handmade. They're all the highest quality material. It's literally like fashion label quality stuff that is going to be coming out, because the whole concept of it was I don't want to bring out just merch that people just like disposable. Like it's all sustainable, all ethically handmade. I want it to be like really high end stuff, but just in small amounts to come under the Creative Appetite brand. Like I want it to be like something special rather than like, so cool. Oh, this is just some random like shitty merch shirt. It's like, no. I want people to want to wear this and want to be around it. So everyone listening, that's coming out very soon. But yeah, back to what we were saying is like all these opportunities have started opening up because I'm being open, like I'm being present in the moment with these beautiful, amazing humans who are offering me their time by coming on the podcast, and then I just be myself. And like for so long, as we were talking about before, it's like for so long I was so caught up in my own like head, in my own negativity and own like life traumas that I wasn't really being present. And now that I'm present, I'm like, oh, like you know what I mean? Like all this stuff is just happening. And like as we were chatting before, like before this, it's like you don't even notice it until you sit and take a moment and go, what the hell is going on? It's like I'm so happy with myself, and but everyone else is like resonating, and they're also all like people start gravitating towards you being open and present, and it's so nice. It's like a nice feeling to have all these beautiful humans around you. You're like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Well, it's easy to offer to do these kind of chats too, especially when you let me sleep outside your house and have a shower this morning.
Yeah, literally.
When you're in a van,
garage, take my key.
Give me a garage key last night. That's the biggest thing when you're van lifing on the road is like I rock up to people's doors. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And I've got a towel over my shoulder. It's been like, let's go duck in your bathroom for a minute. Just need a little shower. But no, it is. It's like these conversations are the best. There's like, and there's not enough of these, but it is. You gravitate, like you make that shift. I found that huge in my life. Like I made some huge, huge changes in my mid-20s and set me up for where like so much. And that huge shift is like you make that shift and you find people. Like there's pockets of people in every stage of their life, but you find similarly aligned people when you just let go of control, flow, and which is my big thing lately is just surrender and flow. Just like the Wu Wei, which is like Taoism.
How would you like with those big shifts, could you like maybe talk a little bit more about what they looked like for people? Because I feel like it's so easy to be like, I do this all the time. I'd be like, oh yeah, and like these things happened.
Just vaguely.
Just really just brush straight over the top of it. And people probably sitting there going, yeah, what things though? And I'm like, oh, it's goddamn.
That's understandable. I have had quite an interesting life and quite heavy, so I don't tend to bring them up in specific too much because normally you don't need to bring a conversation down like that. But we've all got our own traumas and experiences. But
anything you feel comfortable with, like
I have no holdbacks as well.
I thought you imagine like, so anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. No,
anyway, I just have to go. No, it is. I think there's so much good can come from conversations of our own experiences. Can help other people or just share and educate. And I think I have had very interesting experiences in my life which are good to share. I've seen the impact already within my friend group from university, just the thing. So, context. I'm going to stop brushing. lightly dusting like a nice pastry.
Everyone's like sitting there intently like, here we go.
We should have got pastries.
We should have got pastries. Yes.
That's all right. Then the microphone's for me.
That'd be the worst.
So when I was 19, set it up. From 16 to 19, I grew up in the country in Adelaide Hills. I was part of the Country Fire Service as a volunteer. My dad was as well. So I was spent a lot of spare time fighting fires, doing fire truck things, cutting cars, house fires and things. So that was kind of my youth. And then it set me up to getting the week I got my full license, I joined the ambulance service in South Australia as a volunteer because you can do it when you get your full license. So the week I got my full license was driver training. I did that for like 3 or 4 months. And then I got a job full time. I got an Indigenous cadetship with the SA Ambulance Service, and they put me full-time on road, and I was studying the paramedic degree on my days off. It was a lot. I was so young. I was 19, and so many great opportunities. I was so hungry for it, and I just wanted to help. I just want to help. I love people and just love helping. I love being there, and it's pretty much like it's quite up there in the way you can help people, but it was hard. And so I did that for 6.5 years, and by the time I was 25 kind of thing, I was burned out. I was like, I'm too young to be this old. And it took life like knocking me on my ass to for me to see that. But along the way, amazing growth, amazing journeys. But skipping over 6 years of lots and lots of big things. Like people are always like, oh, this is the first thing you say you're an ambo, and people are like, oh, what's the worst thing you've seen? And you're like, yeah, I just want to go relive and tell you something that's worse than you've ever seen in a movie in real life. And there's all these emotions that go with it. And so I don't talk about specific things a lot, vaguely brush, but it's
going to be
it was by the end of it. So by the age of 25, I was realizing that I realized that I pretty much had PTSD from a lot of experiences. Some of the culture in the workplace is very toxic. It is with most emergency services. There's investigations all over Australia at the moment trying to reform police, fire and ambulance in toxic masculinity. The whole man up and get through it was a terrible thing. And I was like finishing 12-hour shifts, getting in my car and just crying. And I was like, this isn't good. And then I broke my knee skateboarding and tore my ACL and had 6 months off. And in that time, I was like, I'm going to go do my rehab on the road. And I drove up to Byron. It was the first time I'd ever been to Byron. I was like 25. And I was like, oh my God, I love this place. It was beautiful. Everyone's nice. But then so basically I kind of just did yoga and saw physios up here and on the East Coast. And then I went back to work 6 months later and I was like, I don't want to go back. And I went back, and then I was like, within like 2 weeks, I was like, oh, I'm a different person now. Like I had shed that space and that thing, and I realized, and I'd stopped holding back the walls of pain and traumas I was feeling. And, 6 years of, probably longer, of dealing with like heavy things, and like they'll forever be in my mind as vivid memories. And I'll spend the rest of my life dealing with the effects of those traumas. Beautiful moments too. Like I can, you remember so many beautiful moments as well, but the negative ones kind of sit a bit higher.
They always
in the pile.
Pack a bit more of a punch, don't
they? They do. They carry a bit more weight, but I'll spend the rest of my life. And then, so I've now based my life on working towards that goal. And I prioritize that over money, over social norms or anything. Like that's what led me to van life. So that's kind of like going back to it is I was very, very, very low point and went, I'm not this person anymore. And then I did some really, really heavy jobs in a short period of time. There was no support. And then I was like, I have to leave. And they wouldn't give me time off. They wouldn't let me swap my shifts. Some internal politics. And then I got told, just to man up, get over it. You just got to get through. And I went, there's no amount of money in the world that fixes that. Like, I'm in shattered pieces of a human, and you're telling me just to come to work and then pretend like it's all okay and then make decisions that impact people's lives in the moment while I'm in emotional turmoil. And I was like, and I remember calling my parents because they're the best support system you've ever had. And I was just like, mine are like, yeah, so wonderful through this journey. They were so proud that I was there. And then there was this pride of like, am I letting them down by not wanting to do this anymore. But they were so supportive. And I remember sitting in the lounge room with them, typing this email saying I resign. And like being in tears, hovering over the enter button and then hitting it. And this wave of like freshness came over and I was like, the weight is gone. And then ever since then, it's been a positive journey forward, and I bought a van, and
it's so crazy, right? Like you can go through like these really like when you go through like something so intense and so traumatic, you do come out the other side, and it's such like the man up thing is so like there is grounds to it to a degree. Like there are some times where you just do need to just suck it up at a point where like
I think the wording in suck it up is like it's going to be okay.
Yeah, like telling someone to suck it up is like so like
that's because it's implying a negative a negative way that you're repressing. It's not. Don't repress it. Just know that it's going to be okay, and that how you feel now doesn't last forever. I think if someone had said that to me, it would have been a game changer to say like, it's going to be okay. You're not going to feel like this forever. This is just how you're feeling in this moment. Your body is reacting. Like the whole thing of survival mode.
Yeah, like fight or flight.
Yeah, and like the way our body responds to traumas.
Yeah, I don't know. So like even now, like the jobs that I work in has that same kind of mentality.
So many do.
It's like, oh, this is a hard physical labouring job, so we're just, you just got to fucking... Oh, man, I just swore. I'm so sorry. Here's like,
does he not swear on this? I was wondering that.
I do swear, but I don't say the F word. I might say shit or something every now and then.
But shit's like...
Wow.
Is this podcast or in life?
In life it's bad. In life
really?
It's bad.
Oh, okay. I mean, you do you.
I think for the podcast, like there are kids and stuff probably listening, and I don't want to be...
Hopefully.
I hope so. I want to try one in. I want to have everyone.
Oh, it's great.
I just don't want to be that, like, because
I'm sure that you're not the first time they've heard it.
Oh no, I've had other people come in here and swear all the time. But yeah, it's the mentality of there's so much like in the men's workspace where there's so much like physical labor and job and like
not even just men.
I'm not sure what I can't speak for the women's workspace because I'm not a female obviously, and I don't want to like talk about it because it's not really my spot. But like I just know personally from working in like physical labor jobs, like dealing with like FIFO work and stuff like that, the demographic that work in that space and the toxic masculinity around that, and like some of the things that they say, I'm like, you wouldn't say this to your daughter, and you sure as shit wouldn't say it to your mum. So I'm like,
it's a good little measure.
Why do you think that it's acceptable? Or why is it still not being spoken about? Like, why do people think it's acceptable to be like that? Like, I'm just going to go on rant because it's really annoying. Like, you grow up your whole life treating people how you'd like to be treated, right? So why then would you then say, like, really derogatory, negative things about other people and then think that's okay? Like, how do you go... Like, how do you not, like, check yourself? Like, I understand that sometimes things just fly out. Like, I get that. Like, it's human error. I'm not saying I'm not perfect. 100% definitely not perfect. Like, obviously. But, like, you should acknowledge some of the things that you say. Like, you should hold yourself accountable, right? Yeah. Accountability for everything in life. If you can't be self-aware and hold yourself accountable, then how can you ever be a good, like, even just, like, how could you ever be a good partner? How could you ever, like...
Just a person to yourself.
Do you know what I mean? How could you be nice to yourself? I don't know if that's just full. Sorry.
I personally have, like, through my experience, have found that people who lash out the most in ways that are negative to others are normally a reaction to traumas, undealt with traumas in their life, and it's that if you're in life, I've found personally that when I was getting the most resistance in life and everything was harder, I was lashing out more. It was because I wasn't dealing with things, specific things that were not aligning with how I am or want or how my life is or what is healthy. And those things created resistance, which made life harder, which made me think, and then to feel better, you lash out sort of thing. And I think a lot of that comes from that. So like as this culture, like in the last 10 years, so much has changed in awareness. Like people wanting to be healthy and being aware, that's huge. And as that happens more, I think everything else will follow.
Yeah, it is. I think the concept of life is actually quite interesting. To just get really
deep. Anybody
deep.
Really
just
know.
Get real, like for my parents, for example, right? Or that generation, like, it seemed to me when I was growing up that, like, now, as you just said, like, everyone's so aware. Everyone is so much, like, they're open about their feelings. They're really talking about their mental health. They're like, everyone is aware. But then my parents and their generation, like, I remember growing up, and my stepdad would never talk about his feelings. And and now it shows, like, there's so much going on with him that I feel upset about, because I'm like, dude, if you just acknowledge that you got, like, things going on, like, everyone, life's tough. Like,
life is tough.
You can't avoid running into trauma. Unfortunately, unless you stay in a, like, literally, even if you were to stay in your house, you're still, because then you'd be like, well, now I'm not socializing. So there's trauma in itself.
There's
right?
isolation.
Like, you just can't get around it. So, like, just be open about it. Like, no one's going to shut you down if you just be open about your mental health, or, like, just be open in your relationship with your partner. Or communication is key. I know that sounds stupid and everyone's like, oh, it's clear. But it truly, like, once you become enlightened, no, I'm like, oh my God. But, like,
look at us. Look at us.
Look at us go.
We are literally levitating. There are our chairs.
But you know what I mean?
No, it's so true that, like, just, I think communication, there is nothing
more powerful
than
that.
Whether you're communicating to yourself, yes, coffee. Whether you're communicating to yourself, which is what we call awareness.
It's probably going to be pretty weak too.
Standard. I do have high coffee standards, and he knows this.
Oh, it was good coffee.
It is. Stitch. Nailing it.
Actually, yeah. Shout out to Stitch. Please sponsor me. That's not a joke. That has been dead set. I'm going to message you.
They are some good beans from Sydney. I have been.
Funny story about this, right? So there's a reason why I want them to sponsor me. So I had Benny Watson from Survivor. Not that he was just on Survivor. But anyway, great human. Really good friend. Dear friend of mine. Love him to bits. Anyway, same thing. Having coffee. Stitch coffee. I was chatting about it. And then someone messaged him.
Should be sitting here.
Yeah, actually, I'll go grab it. Someone was listen to this podcast, which I'm very grateful for. Whoever was listening, thank you so much for giving me your time. Anyone that listens, amazing. I love you all so much. It was literally like, message him and go, hey, I just bought a massive bag of Stitch coffee because I listened to your podcast. And I was having breakfast with him. He's like, dude, why don't you just message them and ask them to, like, sponsor your podcast because you drink their coffee all the time. I was like, I didn't really think about that. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's actually probably smart. So goddamn, Stitch, please sponsor me.
I am, like, obsessed with coffee, and
same.
I think that is the best idea.
I'm just going to quickly go grab the bag.
Go grab it.
I don't even care. They're getting free plugged. There we go.
Look at that. How's the aesthetic? Let's get rid of that.
Yeah, get rid of that. That's ugly.
I really wanted to make you a pour over. I want to, after this, I'm going to get I'll go to the van. I've got the pour over in an origami filter. It's like,
by the end of this,
the pinnacle of filter. I feel like
caffeine. So getting back to what I was saying, like communication, right? Nailed it. But it is true, and I truly wish that everyone in life could get to a stage where they feel comfortable speaking to their partner, or speaking to their kids, or speaking to their friends, and just be open about their problems, or, like, just be open in general about everything, whether it be positive or negative. Because I genuinely think that a lot of the time, even for me growing up, I never, like, spoke about my wins or my losses, right? So I was always like, oh, I'm not proud of myself. I can do better. And then with this podcast, I've learned so much. I'm like, you know what? I'm so proud of myself for doing this podcast. Like, no one can take it away from me. Like, I've worked hard. I'm really proud of myself for, like, sticking with it. And I feel like people need to be more, like, proud of themselves. Like, it doesn't mean you lose drive. It doesn't mean that you're like, all of a sudden I'm proud of myself. So that's the end. I'm finished now. It's like, no, it's like, just sit in your moment and enjoy your moment. It's your moment.
Celebrate your wins. I just acknowledging how far you've come. I literally had this chat with some mates like 2 days ago. My last video that I posted on Instagram, one of my favorite artists liked it. And I'm just like, that's a win.
That is a win,
because that is growth that I've started, and I've grown to a level of skill in my field that someone who I looked up to is now, you know, like you're getting closer to that, and you're like, that is growth. That is hard work, commitment, and just growth. And then I'm like, I celebrated that. It's not like, oh, look how good I am. It's like, I have come so far, and this is incredible because, like, this artist, okay, I'm just going to quick, like, James Chatburn, amazing music. Go listen. Just released a new song yesterday with Noah Slee. He's an Australian guy who lives in Berlin, and his voice is like velvet cake. Like, and I don't know. And it's as smooth as this delightful Colombian coffee.
Stitch coffee, shout out.
From Stitch. But I modeled my voice in my singing a lot. Like, it affected how I sing because I was like, love it so much. And things like that is incredible. But communication.
Right.
We could tangent all day.
We could literally talk. But that's the whole point.
Communication is like, I think that's the most important thing. Whether you communicate to yourselves, communicate to others, you need to, like, if you don't, you're just going to end up consistently crossing your own boundaries, crossing other people's boundaries, and then no one's happy.
No. Isn't it crazy? I remember when I was younger, I pondered on this whole thing of like social media. So when Instagram first came out, I was always like I remember being on my phone. I always remember this moment. I was on my phone and I was like, oh, this is going to become something big. Like, this is going to actually take over my life.
And
because
you didn't want to throw shares in at early days when you were 10?
I didn't even know anything about shares. I wish I did. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've ever had that same thought, but I was looking at this phone and I'm like, this is actually becoming a part of my life. And now it's a part, like, it's so embedded in people, right? If you don't have your phone, you basically you're not wearing undies. That's probably a bad
Which
analogy.
is also a great
Which is
thing.
also, I'm not wearing undies. But you know, it's like an extended part of your body, right? So now, like, if someone,
but in an unhealthy way.
Yeah, but if someone likes your
but
photo or your video and stuff like that, you're like, it would have never been a thing before. But now that social media is so prominent, it's exciting, right? It gives you like a dopamine hit, and it's like, you're like, oh, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just an interesting life concept if you start thinking about how social media now affects people's brains chemically and yada, yada, yada.
Look, I don't know how to achieve it, but there is this balance that I think you could achieve if you're not needing validation, if you've dealt with your need, we all have this need for validation in some way, shape or form, which you've inherited from our parent, like from our childhood. Instagram is like, it should just be called validation. That's what the app should be called.
Small wins.
Meta, if you're listening, change the name.
Change it, please.
Just change it to validation. That way we're all
aware. Understanding.
We all know what we're getting ourselves into. I had to turn notifications off for likes. Like, I don't want to see them come up.
Yeah, it's bad.
I'll go look at notifications if I want to see, but like the whole like someone likes it. That is so bad.
It's so weird,
and it keeps making me open the app. Do you ever find that you just like...
They're smart.
Too smart. Yeah. They're using their powers.
They know.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Batman.
Definitely Spider-Man, but whatever.
Spider-Man? Oh, it is Spider-Man. What is it?
Bad.
Wow.
Bad. But if you...
Oh, God. People are like, what are you talking... What are you two actually on about? Anyway, sorry, guys. Half an hour in. We're having a good time.
It's cooked.
But yes, I do, yeah. Getting back to that.
Communication. I think that's a great key thing. It all comes back to
so everything comes back to what we started when we first started talking. It's like when you are fully comfortable within yourself and you're truly happy, right? You're not concerned about likes. You're not concerned about, like, it's nice that people are acknowledging your work, like you said, but you are not, it is not your be all and end all.
It does not define me.
Exactly right. It doesn't define you. Like this clothing that I'm wearing right now is from a good friend of mine, Josh, from London. This is all handmade and material is sourced in London, in England, sorry. Good. Alyssa Block, check them out. This is not another, I'm plugging everyone and no one's sponsoring me. Soft. So everyone, excuse me that I'm shouting out right now, please sponsor the podcast because I want to do this forever and I want people to also come on here and be able to tell their story. But yes, Alyssa Block handmade, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, put a photo up on my Instagram and they like my photo. And it is my friend, so, but he didn't have to like my photo. Like the brand that he has, no one had to. And then from that, other people, and like they've reshared and blah, 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 this or whatever. And it's nice. You're like, oh, cool. Like I'm getting acknowledged for like, because I want to be more into fashion and I want to be more present as a personality on my Instagram to like kind of coincide with the brand of the podcast. It's not like, if I didn't have a phone, I wouldn't care. But unfortunately, to move forward as a brand, just like you have to go and sing, you have to go around. Like, unfortunately, I
love singing. It's the Instagram that kills me.
But it's just part of it. You know what I mean? Like they go hand in hand, because unfortunately now social media is so prominent in people's lives, and the only way to like market yourself is to be on Instagram right now or TikTok.
But it's where you're pulling from. So like I get most of my validation from the live performance and the sharing I do on stage. Like I never shy away from, like, you're like, oh yeah, we'll go see some live music, have a good time. And then here's me on stage going, hope you guys have a good time. So this is this really, really heavy thing that happened. And I wrote this song about it. Because I grew up I started playing folk. And folk music, if you've ever seen a folk gig, they go, this song is about this. I was going through this. I wrote this song about it. And it's like sharing. And it's good because it breaks down the walls of humans and their problems and the way social life is and society is. And it's like what we're doing now. It's opening the dialogue. And so I kind of brought that when I changed into this like neo-soul, jazzy blues sound that I'm at the moment. I don't know what it's like.
It's cool.
It's a big stirring pot.
I like it.
Thank you. I brought that to it, and because I have so much, most of my music is about either mental health, about the journeys of what I've been through, or how I do cope with it. Like I literally have a song called Meditate. I wonder why. Because meditation is like such an important thing of like my core being now, because it's how I survived and survive currently. It's part of my self-care routine that allows me to exist. And then other songs about my family's journey through the stolen generation, which is like these stories are not told and not talked about. And so mainly my audience is non-Indigenous. So it's an education thing about sharing. This happened to my family. It was my great-grandma who was taken, yet I'm still feeling the effects, that intergenerational traumas, and then talking to my family and my mum's generation, and then talking about my grandma's generation and how they felt and how they were. And it's just devastating. And this just feels like this missing piece. So I write songs about that and about my journey trying to find our mob again and reconnect. And I think that that dialogue is just so important. And I've played gigs, and then people come up to me going like, oh my God, like my grandma was taken and nobody talks about it, and none of my friends know. And they'll just come up and share that with me because I've created a safe space of like it's an okay thing to talk about. And I think that power is communication through a different platform. And it's like, man, that's huge. So when it comes to Instagram, I'm like, I don't even care. Because like it's great to let people know what you're up to, but having that impact on someone's life is like, and you never know who's listening. Huge. Anyway. This is another, I like to ponder. I like to think that I'm a deep thinker, and this is something that I have thought about a lot. Being from New Zealand and having Māori heritage myself, I've often thought, because it took me a very long time to understand anything when it came to like Indigenous traumas or just people's traumas in general, not even really just humans, right? From intergenerational traumas. And it took me a very, very long time. And I think this is just my thought, and I'm not educated in anything that comes to genetics, but it's like, do you think... Is anybody?
Well, people, I guess, are studying it. But like with your genetics, right? It's like these traumas are embedded into your genetics, whether you like it or not, which then when you are born, or like when your parents keep going down and going down, these genetics get passed on to you, and that also has like it has an effect on your like brain chemistry and how you have anxieties and how you have depression. And I think I probably sound like the biggest dickhead.
No, you are like you're sense. On the money, man.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like these your genetics have been passed down with these traumas, and then that has made your like that's the makeup of your brain, whether you liked it or not. And this is why people are having more. Are dealing with a lot more depression and stuff now, because we as humans are passing this, like as your family or your mum and stuff are passing this on to you, and so on and so forth. So I think now it's like if you were to have, like if I was to have kids, if I become so aware of my traumas and I deal with them in a healthy way and I actually get on top of them before I had kids, that maybe I could change. Like they're still gonna get my genetics, but like, cycle. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Dude, I hope that makes sense.
I love that you said you don't know if you're on it or not, but you are, like, that is it, I reckon. So there's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps Score. Huge book, huge read. It was brutal, man. It was hard to read because it's like bringing up your hardest thing, like your hardest pains in your life into your brain, and you have to sit in it. But it basically is stress changes your body. Stress will make you sick. It impacts everything. And I think like it's so underrated. That's not the right
undervalued.
It's just I honestly can't think of the word.
Like,
We could spend the next half an hour as us trying to think of the one word.
The one word that we need.
It's stress is so powerful, and like I don't think many people like acknowledge how impactful stress is. So stress, I mean, it starts with stresses and like triggers, which activate traumas and your body response. So I think the best way to describe it is, when you're in really uncomfortable, someone says, "Hey, I really didn't like what you did," and your body goes and you feel tense. Your muscles tighten, your shoulders raise, your breath's like shallow.
Yeah.
And your body is in a fight or flight response. That is step one. Like that's how that's stressing start. And then you hold that. You hold on to that and you sit in it. Your body stays tight. And then after people sit in this space for their whole lives sometimes, from like childhood traumas, and sit in that tenseness, and that is changing your body. Like it changes your brain chemistry, the way the balances from serotonin and dopamine, and like it affects everything. And then it can give you joint problems, it can give you bowel problems. Like it just affects your body in so many ways that will start changing. Whatever.
Yeah.
It'll start changing the way you are as a human, and then you will pass that on. But also the mental patterns that you live in, you pass that on to your kids too. Like I learned how to love from my parents. I learned how to be sad from my parents. I learned how to deal with conflict from my parents. And they were just dealing with the best tools that they were given. I'm super appreciative that with my parents, even still going through their own traumas and dealing, and they're in their 50s now and they are dealing with stuff, and I love that. But they gave me such a great opportunity and honestly tried to break the cycle. My dad told me that it's hard, it's so emotional to talk about. It's great, but I love it because I'm so appreciative that he literally said to me, he's a farmer kid who grew up without much emotion from his parents. It's just the way it was back in the 60s, 70s. And he's like, because that's how they were treated from their parents, and it's the cycle.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't want you to experience what I did. He doesn't know how to love himself just yet, but he loved me. He knew how to but I can give it all to you. And it literally broke the cycle. He taught me how to be self-aware when I was 10. And I was but it took me another 10 to 15 years to really understand how to use it. But he built that foundation when I was a kid, and my mum as well just taught me how to love, unconditionally love. And I think I'm so appreciative for that. But it's and it took me, and I remember making huge mistakes when I was 20, like in early relationships, and using alcohol as a vice, bottling up, not communicating, drinking, letting it all blow out, as we all do, because we just go like, it's Friday night, I'm just going to get...
It's the culture, right?
It's the culture.
The Australian culture. It's so bad.
And I made some mistakes, and some bad mistakes, and he took me home, and he was there, and he saw it, and I was like so embarrassed. He took me home the next morning. He slept on my couch, and I woke up, and he's like, are you going to relive in this circle? It's like a little cycle. Are you going to keep reliving in this cycle and doing this again and again, or are you going to make the change? Or do you want to make a change and not do this anymore? And I was like, that stuck in my head. I remember the exact moment, and it was like 10 years ago now. I was about 21, and it changed everything. From that day, I then went and got psychologist appointments, and then she put me onto like mindfulness, and Thich Nhat Hanh book was the first one I ever got. And then I started into mindfulness, which started me into meditation. And that was like the start of my healing. It was the day. I remember the day I was like, and today, from now on, I am healing.
That's crazy, man.
So it's like you can break that pattern, but it's just hard because you can't pass that on to your kids that we don't have yet. Mate, one day. Who knows?
Unconfirmed. No, I'm joking. I love when people say, sorry, it's just a funny saying.
I love it.
When someone's like, we don't have children, you're like, that's unconfirmed. You're like, it's such a funny thing. I'm sorry.
That we know of.
It's just humour. I'm sorry. It's
but it is. You can't pass that on without us making these changes. Right. So look at us go. We got to be proud of ourselves.
Exactly. Like you should be proud of yourself. Like, and you know what's so crazy is that I went through a breakup. When we met, I was going through a breakup as I spoke to you when we met, right? And I love that person so much. And I still love that person to this day. And she's super amazing, really beautiful human being. And the mistakes that I made in that relationship, I only realized once something really, really drastic happened. And it literally my whole life, I was brought up in a household where like emotions weren't a thing. You have to be a man, like be tough, don't cry, like why are you crying? Like stuff like this, right? Like stuff is like you can't cry. And now it has affected me to the point where like I refuse to cry. Or last year was the first year in my life where I've cried the most. And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, I've never cried so much.
2021,
right?
the year of the cry.
Year of the cry. But what I learned from like going through that breakup with this amazing human was that I was like, man, I need to communicate, right? I was like, I'm not communicating with myself and I'm not communicating with others. And that has been it's not her fault that we broke up. And it's not anyone's fault. It's just, that is the way the cookie crumbled. And what I learned from it was I'm like, damn, and now I'm so honest to the point where I'm like over honest. And I'm like, shit,
no such thing. Don't you ever think.
And like we were saying before we jumped in here, right? I'm like, because I'm so open and I'm so like honest with myself, it's represented, right? People want to be, they're like, oh, you know, that was pretty brutal. However, I respect you for being honest and open and communicating.
Well, the most like, whenever there's something hard, like in our lives, it's never it's our perception and anxiety of like before. It's never after, it's always before. So like anxiety is that stress that comes in fear of whatever dialogue you're talking to yourself about and how it will happen and how it will play out. That is the hardest part. Once you've said it, it just gets easier. Like even if you've really, really messed up and you need to like fess up to someone, for example, it's hell until you do it. And then they go, oh, thank you for communicating with that, with me about that. And then, you know, like it's a weight off your shoulders. There's a reason why the weight goes off your shoulders. So it's like training yourself and practicing that so that you don't freak out beforehand as much. And then everything just gets a little bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. It's like, it's weird. It's weird saying that too, like when like being 29, so enlightened.
So old.
So old. Like life is the journey, right? And it is fun. But it is more fun That's not very good English, but it is more enjoyable when you get to a point where you understand yourself and you understand how to communicate. Life starts to become really, really exciting, because then you're not concerned about all these other social aspects of life that have been embedded to us, like governments making stupid ass rules and embedding, and like, like if you want to talk about like trauma, like life traumas coming down from families, think about all the governments that have come through and have embedded this negative, like this.
All they've done.
Governments were only ever there to govern and like just not implement laws as in from personal agenda, just implement laws that are meant to help the general public and society. They're not there to dictate. Like, we're not, like, do you know what I mean? It really grinds my gears.
Talk about like, I mean, there's the most current traumas that the government's put on human. I mean, like, I've been talking to hanging out with a lot in Melbourne a bit more now, and I'm talking to a lot of people through their experience in the last 2 years. Oh, wow. I cannot fathom how they feel, because they're dealing with like really, really bad traumas from what's happened there. That's now. Go back 50 years, go back 100 years, go back 200 years, go back to 1770 when it all started. And it's like, this is what First Nations people have all over the world have been living with,
right?
Since white governments have come in. And yeah, there's a lot of other positive stuff that is assisted by the government, kind of like helping and setting it, but there's like, it's more about like the negative things are so impacting such in a strong and negative way that it needs to change.
I could be wrong in saying this, and someone who probably likes the government are probably going to shoot me. But don't you think it's about time that they acknowledge, not just like, I'm not just like saying sorry and that's all fine. That's like a very nice blanket thing to do.
Step one.
But don't you think it's about time that people open up and communicate, as we've been saying, and just acknowledge the fact that they fucked up? Like trauma is embedded. Like, we realize that, and everyone, why don't they just go, hey, look, we realize, like, we understand that people before us have really, really made a mistake. Like, right? They made a mistake. We understand that. Like, we're not perfect, and it's going to take a very, very long time to fix things. Obviously, things don't just happen overnight. But like, acknowledging and openly communicating and going, hey, there's a problem. Like, there's a big problem. We realize that we did provide a lot of positives, but we have also made some really, really deep, messed up negatives, and we are actually genuinely sorry. Not like, it doesn't have to be like them personally. Like, it's not a personal attack on the person who's running the country. It's just like, hey, we acknowledge that when people turned up,
break the cycle, be the change.
Right? It's like, we acknowledge when people turned up, they did some like really fucked up shit, and we're really sorry about it. We are the government, and we're now going to try implement this. Please give us assistance, and we would like to help. If you just said that, everyone would be like, yeah, sick. Like, let's just move on. Like, but instead,
let's aim for growth and healthy change.
But instead, what they do is, I didn't even expect this to happen. But instead, what they do is they go, oh no, it's you against us now, because you're pushing back, going, hey, we really need this. And you're like, oh, why do they always need this? Or what? It's like, just go, hey, what do you need? Like, how can we be better? How can we help?
Do you know?
And do you know what I mean? Like, just acknowledge it. No one, even on both sides, because it takes two to tango. I'm not going to it takes two to tango. You can't just have one without the other. But like, why can't people just in general across the board just be like, hey, I acknowledge there's something going on and things have happened. How can we now just change? Like, there's something that really grinds my gears. I'm sorry I'm just going on this tangent, but like, the thing that really upset me was the voting of the gay marriage laws. I'm like, why did you waste so much money and create divide, which you knew was going to happen when you're like, hey, let's just take this to a vote. You knew it was going to be a talking point and really just fly people off like society and just really get on, like, you've literally just gone, hey, here's a wall. We're going to smack it right bang in front of you, and who's going to be on either side? Like, why not just change it in government, not say anything? And
what they've done for 200-300 years, though, is the exact same thing, creating this like black and white division. And they set up these goals and be like, yeah, but we gave them money. we gave money to try and make changes. It's like, no, you don't just like put a plastic Band-Aid. Because you know how like plastic Band-Aids are never as good as the cloth ones? It's basically like they throw funding at everything, whether it's the vote or just waste of money, or to like, so in regard to like First Nations stuff, I'm super passionate about that. Positive change and change in the future, which impacts like, I think everything, because it creates it creates that, what do you call it in court when you, precedence.
I was like, we actually got a word.
Precedence.
We didn't wait half an hour to figure it out.
It creates a precedence of like how change. So then things with like,
right,
it's the whole concept of legal.
Yeah. I don't want to dive too deep in it because I feel like some things shouldn't be. But I do, and I don't want to. If I've offended anyone through this rant that are First Nations or not, I'm just trying to open communication. I'm not saying everyone is free and entitled to their own thoughts and opinions. This is just, I think, me personally, I'd like everyone to be on the same level playing field. And I just want people to own their shit. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. But at least if you're actively trying to be a better person and better person for the society as a government, I think everyone would be so much more better off, right?
Yeah. And taking that, so you've just brought it into a context of government, take everything you've said that you wish the government would do back into your relationship that you just talked about. I find like it's the exact same things. Like, you need to openly communicate, even though it's hard. Fess up if you did something wrong. Like, be self-aware. Like, isn't it? It's like life is the same, like, core things of just awareness. Awareness is like the first step. And then, you know, and you live in that state for a while. You go like, okay, I'm aware now, I'm doing this, which is all like relationships are, is you're just learning what you do wrong. Well, not wrong, but like what you do that has a negative impact on other people and sometimes yourself. And then living in that state for a bit and then starting to create patterns to create change and then change. So when it comes to the government, like, you build it back down to like a relationship, which is much more digestible.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not trying to save the world right now. I'm not trying to change.
But if you build that back up to a government, like into a big thing in government, and then you're like, it's that awareness. We are aware that there's a problem. We are aware that we messed up and have caused lots of problems to lots of people. And now we're going to sit in that, and then we're going to try and make healthy steps forward. Not instantly. There's no, this is the solution. It is like little bits. It's like, do you find that if you don't go for a surf, don't sit in nature, don't have time by yourself, and you're just going and you're drinking, and you find that your body, you get like stressed, your stress levels go up, problems. It's like self-care, but on like a huge like society scale. Society care. You can say the wrong thing sometimes, but as long as you are willing to, if someone says, hey.
Yeah, like if someone was to just message me and be like, hey, what you said in that podcast was really offensive, or
because of this and this
because
and
of
this
and this and this, I'd be like,
right.
Look, I'm so sorry that I've offended. Like, I am genuinely, this is one trait that I really like about myself, is that I own up to my shit. I never deflect. If someone calls me out on it and I know I actually am in the wrong, I'll 100% own up to it. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. But if you call me out and I'm not in the wrong, I will be like, excuse me, I appreciate what you're saying. However, I still think I'm in the right.
Everyone's going to be different.
But this is the thing, like, world's so
diverse is the word.
Yeah, right. The world's so dangerous. But like, I guess
Danger zone.
we haven't even touched on, like, we could go for hours and hours on this. I mean, but
what's the longest podcast ever? Because I think we could beat it.
2 hours.
I just meant in the world.
Oh, I don't know. Like,
we could do like a marathon sesh.
Like a 6 hour podcast. I'd say.
I say this is going to beat it.
The camera will shut off and then we'll just be vocals. But getting back to, I guess, you as a person. I mean, we've gone on this we've come full circle. I hope everyone is still listening and enjoying this. This is pretty different. This is not usually the standard of podcasts that I go.
We could just start again.
No. I'm actually really enjoying it because it is a nice, like, when you're with your friend, right? It's so much different to like you feel a little bit more comfortable, and then naturally we've got a mic in front of us, so I don't know, like. But
I love talking about these things because
I just think it's nice.
It all sits in my brain sometimes, and I just need to get it out.
Yeah.
So like first and foremost, we do it for ourselves. We make these changes. We talk these things for ourselves, and then secondary, like on a secondary level for others.
Exactly, and I'd be like over the moon if people really resonated with what we've been chatting about for the last hour and 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Time flies when you're having fun.
But I guess
dealing with traumas.
Dealing with traumas. Getting back to you. All right, I'm going to ask a couple of generic questions. What has been the most impactful moment whilst being on the road? Like, is
Singular moment?
Yep.
So I do this thing like when I just a little bit of resetting. I ended up getting a tattoo of 3 dots on my wrist so that I would breathe 3 times. I used to draw it back when I was like having anxiety attacks on the ambulance, and I'd draw it on pen. And then now I was like getting a tattoo one day. I was like, mate, can you just smack 3 dots on there too while you're at it? And it's been incredible. Like, so every time I feel my body tense, which is like when you talk about things that you're passionate about, your body reacts, and then I get a bit, and I go.
Yeah, I feel like I needed to do that. Like, while I was going on a tangent, I probably should have just shut up and went.
It's good though. It's good. It's like a little reset, brings you back down. So, what was the question again?
What has been like the most singular, impactful moment whilst living on the road? Like meeting someone. I don't know, maybe there was like a moment where you were singing on stage and you were standing there looking at going, holy shit, like I'm doing this. Like this is.
I don't think there's any one singular moment. There is consistent. It happens all the time.
That's amazing.
So for example, last week I was in Sejuna playing a show with Barker. It was incredible. She's an insane, incredible human, First Nations rapper, and her message is powerful. And so I was so humbled to be there and supporting on that little festival, First Nations festival. And then I went out to Cactus Beach. A friend took me out to Cactus. And I dreamed of going out to Cactus.
Cactus is my favourite place in Australia.
And I was sitting there by myself, and like I've had a tricky year, just emotionally. I worked super hard for 3 months, like insane amount of gigs. And then I've had like 3 months of just low of like questioning my self-worth and what am I doing, and I'm not going anywhere, and like getting caught up in my own mind. And I had this moment where I just broke down in tears looking at these beautiful cliffs and beaches, just going, but I am here and this is incredible. And I think I've had that moment so many times along the way, whether it be Darwin, and I'll just start like now and just go back, like Darwin last year, I went up there for 2 weeks, 3 months I stayed there for in my van, just beautiful.
Yeah, you were up there fierce. You were there for ages.
Yeah, I just forgot to come home. I had my dogs with me. It was great. But like that. And then I had moments there too when I'm in nature and I'm just like, this is huge. This is powerful. I've gotten to here. And then, like back when I moved, when I quit the Ambos, I bought a van. Got a puppy and moved to Byron and just lived in my van for 2 years full time, which was incredible and so hard. And there were so many times in there. There was negative times, there was positive times, but all of them I'm just so grateful for. I got attacked in my van at Lennox one day, had a full anxiety attack, like locked the doors, rang the cops, in tears, but I reflect on it as a experience that is helping me become who I am now. And I'm so grateful for this person who is sitting right here in this moment that like I can't have this, which I'm stoked about who I am now and how I feel and the people I get to meet along the way without all of that happening. Like, I try and tell myself this little life motto. There's no such thing as good and no such thing as bad. Lots of things good. There's no such thing as bad, just different amounts of good. Because in some way, shape or form, I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow from this. So even a bad experience is good.
Right. It is like you take the positives out of the negative, which is so good. I like quotes. Some quotes, I have a few in my head. There's one that my ex-partner Alex, the one I've been chatting about, she bought me a wallet for my birthday once, and I still have it now, and it has an engraving inside it of this quote, and it says, "Man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. And for some reason, like, it just sticks with me all the time.
Just resonated?
All the time, yeah. Like, I'm like, oh, man. Or another one was like, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. I was like, that one is... Because in times of, like, being sad or going, oh, woe is me, or like, why is this happening to me, and blah, 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 which is just a natural human thing to do. When I tell myself, like, because this is personally what I've done, like, it's happened to me, and I'm like, oh, man, why did I just have 3 years of, like, so much negativity and so much, like, angst, and, like, I just felt like all these things are happening to me, and I was so, like, well, I just don't understand. Like, I was like, I don't want to be on the planet anymore kind of shit. And then I heard that quote, and I was like, it just changed my whole perspective. I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is really messed up, but I know that there's something coming, there's something leading up to that, which is going to be better. Like this right now, like all this podcast, all this stuff, all my life, all my friends, all my beautiful, amazing friends, and all the beautiful, amazing people that give me their time and come on the show and like chat. I'm like, I wouldn't be here now if I didn't look at it in that way without that quote, which is like, it sounds so stupid, but it's like when you acknowledge that your life just happens, like things happen in your life, but they're lessons that you learn. You're like, you then back to what we were saying right at the start. It's like you become open and communicating and willing, and you're like, you just start being open to everything, whether it be negative or positive. And you're like, you know what? Yeah. I got this. Like I can do this.
It's like I said before, like if someone had just said to me, it's going to be okay, not man up, like don't repress it. It's going to be okay. That was like a huge thing, a huge shift for me. My probably biggest quote for like that has helped me in the last, it took me years to get to this place, but the last couple of years has been surrender and flow. Like I used to fight the change. It's like, it wasn't in my expectations, and it's that thing of attachment, so then I got really interested in like Buddhism stuff. Like who doesn't love a good bit of Alan Watts?
He's got a humbling voice.
Oh yeah. But that like surrender and flow, when I stopped resisting the change and just let go of control, which I'm still every day is a journey or two, things started changing so much. Like I went from getting sick in a van at the end of my like full-time van life time. I was getting sick like every couple of weeks. My body was just giving up because I was like fighting. I was like, every day was a battle. I was in like a war zone of just life. And it took me a while to realize, for me personally, all I can ever do is share my own experience. But for me, I was resisting. I was fighting the natural flow. And I had the power. Only I had the power to change that. So like if someone was having a negative impact on my life, I used to get, angry at them and hurt at them for doing that to me. But I was like, wait, I have the power to create a boundary, which is something I did not know about until...
Boy, that's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
That is an actual game changer.
Like,
oh, man.
Like most of our parents weren't taught boundaries themselves. I don't think humans, humans are not great at this.
No. This is something like, even for me, like without, I must sound like a broken love child, but I went through a relationship last year. It's
we all are.
It was a beautiful relationship. The person is another amazing human being. However, we both just don't like, she has some things that she needs to work on individually, as do I, and I think it was just wrong timing, which is fine. I don't mind. But what I had to learn after that, what I learned was boundaries, right? And this is something right now that I still struggle with. Like, do you know how hard it is to be like, oh no, I don't want to go out and drink. No, I'm actually just going to stay home and like work on my podcast. Or like, it is so empowering, yet it is the most, like, it's so hard to get. It's so hard to master that.
And that's quite a common one for us, is like our society and drinking and things. But like that is like the smaller stuff that helps build our daily self-care. Boundaries with a partner, it's a doozy, man. Like I've spent the last like 2 to 3 years. I had a relationship a couple of years ago that like wasn't healthy. I didn't know how to set boundaries, and it became quite emotionally abusive towards me. And again, like, I'm the same as you. Like, I have nothing but love for everyone because like, you get to a place of vulnerability and intimacy with someone, and you share a part of yourself, and you're always going to love them, no matter what, in some way, shape, or form. I don't hold any resentment for anyone, but I'm like, I didn't know how to set boundaries, and I let myself stay in this environment because she was going through some really painful stuff and struggling with it, and it began to impact me negatively. And so that's when I was like, oh, okay, I really need to learn this. Like, my parents don't have the greatest boundaries in the emotional sense, so I didn't learn that. And that's super, super important. And again, like, we're talking about the change that we make. I want to learn how to set boundaries with myself, with others, and with partners. And that, like, I smashed the podcast, man. I smashed the podcast on like relationship and boundaries and stuff, like some Jay Shetty, 10% Happier, like anything that this holistic psychologist.
Hey, she's cool.
She's amazing.
This could sound real fierce, and I feel like every time I open my mouth, I'm going to get in trouble for saying something real wild. But don't you think that, I don't know how to say this politely, or like I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to give it a go.
What is your experience? How are you feeling?
I'm going to say,
How does it make you feel? And how does that make you feel?
I went through a relationship where it was the same thing. It was like emotionally abusive, but it was my fault. As in, it was my fault for staying in it and not acknowledging and not being self-aware to the point where I was like, oh no, I don't like this happening to me, or I shouldn't allow this to happen to me. I should say something, but I didn't, because
I should remove myself.
I should literally, I should take myself away from this situation because this is not serving me a purpose. It is
alignment, and like servicing your life is the hardest thing. That just reminded me, the greatest thing you said that one. The greatest quote that changed my life was in my first psychologist appointment when I was back in the Ambo days, and they gave us a couple free sessions a year.
Yeah.
The first session I ever had, she said, this is you, this is someone else. You can change how you respond. They can change how they respond. You cannot change how they are and how they respond, and they cannot change you. And that blew my mind. That changed everything.
It's crazy, eh? Isn't it like wild that, like, we as humans, we can I love this. Like, we as humans are like, so everyone has their own personal experiences. Everyone is molded like through their life. And like you said, you cannot change someone. And it's a fool's errand to run out there and think that you can like be in a relationship.
You'll just cause more damage.
Literally, right? It's like what? It's like a relationship to me. This is now a relationship podcast, guys. Like, a relationship to me should be two individual people on their own individual journey, but together complement each other's lives.
Support,
right? They're meant to be your best friend, your teamwork, or
aligned.
Whatever,
like, think of it as two straight lines, just really close together. They're not overlapping.
No, exactly. They're literally their own running, their own parallel.
They don't need each other.
Exactly.
But together, it's like there is so much in companionship, and it's a beautiful thing to not be fearful of vulnerability. Is such a hard thing for humans, but like, when you get to a place where you can be comfortable in that vulnerability, because it's scary as hell, it's so beautiful. And then like, I've kind of got like, I've had two really, one of my partners said this: reason, season, lifetime. Right, everybody's in there for one of them. And I was like,
this is a game changer.
This is now a quotes podcast. We're just going to quotes.
My friend, she's a life coach. She said that to me because I was going through a hectic time, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Rah, rah, rah. She's like, Jesse, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. As soon as she said that, I was like, oh my God. And then I started like going through all my friends, going through all my like experiences in life, and I'm like, this all makes so much sense.
Do you ever have those moments where you go back and you go like, that was terrible, but I learned so much from that.
Every negative experience, like,
even every positive, negative, even a neutral experience can impact you.
I went through, like I've said, like I went through relationship breakups like everyone has, And I learned so much. Like I was like, bang, I've gone through really positive experiences where I've met people like you and like other people, and I'd go away from them going, I want to be a better person because these people are making me feel so good about myself because of their energy that they bring. Like, look how humble they are within themselves and how happy they are. Like, without these people like you and some other people that I've met along the way, I would not be how I'm feeling right now. And it has only happened in the last year, like since I started this podcast, that I feel like this. Because without this podcast, I would not be, I'd still just be a menace. Like
that's all we ever want. Like that's all I think as humans, that's all you can want is to be positive impact on other people's lives. And I think of it like I love to metaphor everything in my brain. Like I say what I mean and then I say, but kind of like, and like I had a mate when I was 19, we grew up in the Ambos together and then he went off and did nursing. But he's just like, you got those, we've all got those mates and they're just like the most positive person you've ever met. And every time you're around them, you feel amazing. Yes. I was like 20 and I was like, I want to be like Greg. We've all got a Greg in our lives. And I was like, he makes me feel better. And I watch him around in a social situation and everyone's gravitating towards him because he just makes everybody feel. And so I like in my mind, I refer to that as sunshine. So people who are like, I just want to be sunshine. Because you know that feeling.
Yeah.
When you see, it's like there's sunshine and like when you meet someone, you're like, you feel like an exhale. You know that feeling? That. Like, I want to be that.
Right?
In life, regardless of whether anyone else is there or not. I want to be there. I want to be that for myself. But if I can be that for others, that's a goal. That's a goal of mine.
Legit, for me, and the same. I feel the same. It's like I just want to be the nicest person I can, and that's the whole, like, another reason why I started the podcast. I just want people to feel good. Like I want to bring beautiful humans on this in this space, tell their story, inspire others who also want to just give it a go. And I want, like, when people come up to me, I've had this happen a few times. They're like, oh, do you run this podcast? Oh my God. Like, and they're like, holy shit. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, whoa, like, anyone that shows me any sport, whether they send me a message, like I had someone recently send me a message, they're like, you actually stuck to what you were doing. Like, oh, this is crazy, right? So I was chatting to a friend and I was like, at the start before this, like I was this far in and I was like, I'm going to be doing this, and this or whatever. And I've done everything that I've said I was going to do. And the other day she sent me a message and she's like, it is so refreshing and so beautiful to see that you've stuck with what you've done, like what you said you were going to do. And like, I was like, I didn't realize that people were noticing. Like I didn't realize that people were watching because I just try to stay in my lane.
Because if you live your life saying like, anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody see that? Like you can't live your life like that. But if you just like, this is what aligns with me, this is what I'm going to do. And then every now and again you pop your head up and you go, oh wow, like it's like when you're hiking, you don't look at the horizon because the horizon never comes.
Right.
It's just like never there. But if you put your head down and just be like, oh, this is a beautiful rock and this is the lovely path and you get to see the earth and the trees. And then you look up and you're like, hell, I've come a long way. I think it's just like that.
Yeah, that's a good
Dude, analogy. I had this moment with my high school music teacher. I saw a teacher at a gig. And this is like, school was ages ago. I had a terrible time in school. I was just bullied. Unlike you, I'm a crier. And I've been this way since day one.
Don't get me wrong. When I was a kid, I was bawling my eyes out, which is probably why they were like, hey, stop crying. I was like, fierce.
When I say like, when I was a kid, I was like 17 and I was still like, I just cry all the time. Like, it's just who I am. I have so much emotions with me and there's nothing wrong. It took me so long to be like, there is nothing wrong with that. Crying is great. Like,
it's actually good for you.
Just the way I am, I love and I feel everything, but like times 1,000. But then I had this moment where I was like, I saw a teacher, one of the most impactful. I had two teachers at school that were the most impactful. And one, we did maths and golf. He did golf as a subject. And I was good at golf for a while. And then, but we went to New Zealand, competed and stuff. But then I talked to him, and he's like,
brushed over it.
Yeah, light dusting.
I was a professional light dusting.
But it's insane. Like I was like saying to him, I was like, I saw him at a gig, and he's like, what has happened? And I said what I've done in my life, but I said I've come back to music, and I said that this is my life now, and it's beautiful. I get to travel the world. I get to see the most beautiful people and share my stories, and there's no way to sing my music without feeling all of it and hiding. I can't hide from myself, which is great. So I'm always, and I'm confronting it. I was like, it just has such a positive impact on my life. It got me through the hardest things in my life. I'd go home and play guitar. I'd write a song, turn it into a song, and that helped me deal with my depression, which still comes in bouts, but I still use music as such a thing. And I said that my music teacher, Miss Claridge, was such an impact, and I'm so grateful for her. He then went back and told her, she sent me an email saying that, out of nowhere, that saying she's so proud, and it's like, this is the reason why she wanted to teach. And she's like, you never get the return. You give out and you hope, but you very rarely get the return to say that positive return sort of thing. And she's like, that is all I've ever wanted, and I've barely gotten it in my life, but that makes everything worth it. And I'm like, far out.
It's so heavy, eh? It's just like, yeah, man, like this would have to be the deepest podcast I have had.
I do love going deep.
So do I. But it's so like to be vulnerable and then like literally put this out there to the world. You're just hoping that you're like, oh, well, like that is a weird concept, right? About having a podcast. It's like none of this ever gets edited, by the way.
I don't go out raw.
Yeah. I don't edit anything. I don't cut anything out. Great. Every single podcast that you've seen.
Yeah.
None of them have been edited. Apart from the first ones, there was a little bit because the video like stopped, so I had to like join them.
Yeah.
But the only thing that happens with these podcasts is they get joined. That's it. But all the audio, I never cut anything out. I just be authentic, and I hope that everyone that comes on is authentic, and they have been. And it's so.
But how is it? Like we're at what now? An hour and 23 minutes and 49 seconds. But like this is like this state of flow that we are in. Like time doesn't exist when you are as a creator. Like I just read a book. How's this? You know the beautiful times you meet someone in your life, and it's just a season, but so much beautiful things come of it. I met this beautiful girl a couple years ago, and it was a very short little intimacy thing. Didn't work out. Life, different things, but still just so much respect and love between. She sent me a birthday present like the other year, out of nowhere, and it's this book. She wrote in it, she's like, this resonated a lot with me, and like our chat, it reminded me of our chats, and I think this will resonate with you. And it's called Ikigai, and the Japanese way of like flowing.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, and this book, like huge. And now it just made me so much more aware of, as a creative, capitalizing your strengths in we flow. We get into this meditative like state when I'm playing guitar, and I could play a song for 10 minutes that goes for 2 minutes because I'm just like in it.
It's like a vibe,
in this
right?
thing. Like we are like just talking, and it just like
yeah,
it's felt like 2 minutes, but it's been an hour and 20.
And to me, like, that's the best thing about this. Is why I know within myself I found my thing, and it took me a very long time, and I really try. Like I'm a trier. Like I constantly I'll just do shit all the time. It doesn't matter. Like I don't know, it sounds stupid, but like I'm constantly trying. I'm constantly striving to learn, and I'm striving to be a better person, and like just be a better human, and also try be as creative as possible. And then I always had this idea for the podcast, and then I started, and something like, I don't know, I guess maybe you've probably felt this, but like something just clicked, and I was like, oh my God, like this is it. Like in my gut, I knew, and I trust my gut, and I was like, man, like I feel it. I'm like,
now you've
this is
opened another
weird,
door.
right? I'm like, oh wow. And then everything, I can chat for hours. Like I can talk to people, And I didn't and this is like the thing that I've been speaking about in so many other episodes, is like all the things that led him up to my life, that have built my personality, that have made me who I am. All this has come to now. Like I know, like, I don't obviously want to talk about myself, but like I know that I'm a very like bubbly person. I give everyone any time, like I'll give people all my time, and I love to have conversation. And it wasn't until I started doing this, I was like, oh my God, like because like people will be like, oh, you know, you're really good at talking, people feel comfortable around you, this, that, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, like it's nice, like people acknowledge, like I'm not.
But it's scary. Did you find it scary at the start to start? Like,
yeah, it's fiercely scary because I'm me, like giving myself to everyone, like any
vulnerable, authentic.
Yeah,
these things are like, all of us, we're built with this fear of being vulnerable and authentic, and it's like, do you find, like I found that when I hit the lowest, my lowest, like if I look back in my life and go, these were my lowest points in my life, I got through them. So if I can get through them, what's a little bit of fear about sharing something personal?
And it's what's so crazy is that like you come on, you're here for X amount of time, other people come on, they're all here for individual time slots, right? I'm here all the time. Like, I can't come on here and like kind of put on a bit of a thing and like not really get deep enough. Like I'm here every episode showing up. Like I can't run from this. Like I've created it, I've put it out there, and now it's here. Like people know will know me just purely because of how I'm talking and how I talk about experiences and all my episodes and blah, blah, blah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
it's the same as music.
Exactly, right? There's like, you're here now, and
I don't understand pop stars and this, like, it doesn't feel real.
It's scary.
Like creating authentic art is the only, like if I'm ever not creating authentic art, I shouldn't be doing it, because then you're not doing it for the right reasons. But if you're creating authentic art, that is timeless. Like authenticity, and people know, like you know within a second whether someone's authentic or not.
Right? Like people would know, they'll be like, yeah, you're talking shit, Jesse. People could.
We say that for different reasons.
But like you can't, like you have to be authentic.
You have to.
I couldn't.
Why would you not want to be?
But like, imagine if I just come on in and I was like just putting on this facade. Like how I am on here is exactly, and you know this because you know me. Like
because we chatted for 2 hours about the even deeper stuff.
Yeah, right. Like I am the person I am on here is the exact same person I am off. Like I am, and anyone that has been on here can vouch for me for that. Because I don't want to not be like this. I want to be just myself, because that is how I am. Like that's the person I like to be around other people. That's the person I like to present myself to be, to make other people feel comfortable, and I want to be their friend, and I want them to feel whole. So like, why would I then come on here and just be like, yeah, so anyway, I'm like, just like, I don't.
Do you see, can you look in as in like a state of reflection and see your path going from childhood, teenager, through adulthood to get to this place now where you are like, I want to be, like, how many times did you betray yourself and not be authentic to then go, I've had enough. Like, I just want to be me. I don't want to try and be someone else.
Yeah. And it happened. Like, it's just like life, right? You go through growth, and like, that's just what happens. But there does come a moment where you are by yourself, because you eventually will be by yourself at some stage, and you're sitting there and you're like, I'm tired. I'm tired of being, like, I'm tired of letting people either, one, treat me disrespectfully, two, like, they're not serving a purpose, right? They're not, these people that are in my life now all are providing a benefit. They're all super lovely, and you have to manifest that, and but like, that when you're going through school, and you can't help what goes on in school, right? You can't help the people that you're around in school to a degree, because you're young, you're immature, and you're just trying to be liked. Well, that was for me personally. I don't know what other people, but like for me, I was like, I just want to be. I
mean, I was trying, but I was failing miserably.
Totally. And then you get to an age where you're like, oh, you know what? I'm happy with who I am.
What age was that for you?
Now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This has been
this year.
You're 20.
Starting this podcast was the pinnacle moment for me to go, you know what? I'm happy with who I am.
Like, I'm proud of you.
It's great, dude. It's
been
a wild ride. Like, I would cry right now because I'm like, this is so hectic.
Crying is so good, man. I get teary all the time. I cry on stage all the time because I'm like singing stuff about Stolen Generation or like my deepest, darkest times. But I'm like, I love it. And I'll just be like, but people resonate, man. Like I've cried in front of like 1,000 people like this year at a Survival Day show. I sung a song and I was like, don't cry. And then I cried and then I just came off and I had so many people crying, like come up to me crying.
So crazy.
And just there were so many hugs in one day. Like it was so beautiful. Like, yeah, authentic. If you're authentic, it lets other people go, oh, this is a safe space where I can be authentic. And how amazing is that to have that impact?
It's just, it's so wild how many moments I've had, right? I had this one moment with so the girls from the TTK Collective who I've had on the podcast who are helping with my merch, super, super lovely. Like I cannot thank them I can't thank them enough for the opportunities they have provided me. Shout out to you girls. I love you so much. But like they said to me, which is like, they were like, we don't normally go on podcasts. Like we don't do interviews. We don't do any of that stuff. It wasn't until we actually looked at your podcast and seen who you are and like the vibe that you're giving out. Like it's a very chill. Like I know that like, I hate talking about myself, but like when someone like gives you that, you're like it all makes sense. And you're like, oh, like I am being my authentic self. Like it's confirmed now. Like I don't like, because like you run around thinking like, is this actually working? And then someone's like, hey, we acknowledge this, and you're like, oh my God.
You got to hang on to those moments because they are huge moments, like, and turning points that give you the stage. Because I think life gives you those moments when you need it. Like I did read something. I was like, life never gives you anything more than you can handle.
Boy, that's hectic.
Right? Because you're like, actually, yeah, I can handle this. It feels like ass, but I can handle this in some way, shape, or form. And that was huge. But like these moments, like you get these opportunities and then like it helps you get to the next step. I always feel like if I look back and map it out, every time I've got those huge moments, it's been like right before another big step forward. And it's like the confidence boost. There is one moment that I will say specifically to do with music and creativity. I was busking in Byron for years and I'm a bit different to the usual genre there, which I love, but I was like, I have this, I wanted to do this other thing and I was learning how to do looping with beats live.
Yeah, you're a freak.
Yeah.
We haven't even touched on like your music. We've literally just been going down this rabbit hole of like humans.
But this is my music is just me. So it's kind of the same, but yeah. I was looping with beats and I'm like surviving off busking. So I was like, not a lot of money, just pulling the gear together and learning. And it was different. Like I'm like, and then like little keys and then I'm like playing guitar over top and using the loop pedal. And the first gig, instead of busking, the first actual gig I did was a balcony bar in Byron. And I was like sitting in the corner and I was like, okay, this is your first time. I'm like showcasing. This is like, they're paying me proper money and I'm doing this show.
This is your moment.
Someone came in. This is just Byron being Byron. It was Pink, the artist.
The chick, Pink.
Yeah, like the amazing superstar.
The crazy freak who can like run around on stage and still hold notes.
And sing it and do acrobats. Just an incredible, inspiring artist and human. She came in to use the toilet or something. The staff came up to me and were like, and then she stood at the doorway and watched me for like 2 songs, then left and brought her whole family back. And she came up to me in a break and went, dude, she's like, hi, my name's Alicia. And I was like,
like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I know you are.
But she was like, this sounds sick. Like your voice is sick. What you're doing sounds so cool, so different. Keep it up. Like, and just chatted and was just like, the lasting impression was, you are on the right path. Keep this up. And that was like a moment where I go, all right, I've got this. Like, and then it basically set my pattern now for like the last 4 years of like self-teaching myself, like YouTube lesson, like YouTube University on like how to produce and how to make beats. And now I do Ableton and have a home studio and record. And, it's like that's all crazy, of that. And I can put it back to that moment of, because I was having some big self-doubts about like, people.
Yeah, imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
I get it all the time.
The imposter syndrome I had last weekend, like last week, huge. And then really quick divert back to like now, like I had imposter syndrome again. I have a reoccurring thing, as we all do as creatives. I've got to this point in my career where I've like done everything by myself. It's a team of one. People have supported me along the way, but like I've never had managing, booking agents. I've only just got a band in the last couple of years, and that's an amazing thing to like share that journey with other artists. And then and now I'm starting, and I just realized, I went like, these are my weaknesses. I need to outsource. I need help. And I've started now to getting someone to help me out. And this is like a huge change. And it came after my lowest low of like, what am I even doing? Is this worth it? And then all of a sudden, everything comes. And like in the last 2 days, so much beautiful things have happened. But I'm just so grateful for like, so I'm grateful for the lows because I get to feel these highs. But music is a really tricky industry.
Oh, yeah.
Which at the end of the day, I really don't care too much about industry. Like I play music for me. And to be honest, my real life goal is to work with Indigenous kids and share music with them to help. Because music, any creative form, is probably one of the best things for your mental health you can have for life. Whether it's writing, drawing, creating in any way, shape or form, it's so healthy. So I really want to teach Indigenous kids music because it's also as, for 68 forever, because they keep changing the years, but for the entire time, Indigenous people are storytellers. We are storytellers, and music is storytelling. So I just want to pass that on. So that's kind of my life goal, and I'll get there. I've always done schoolwork, but that's kind of like, if I stopped touring, I'd be okay with that because I'd just be out at schools, hanging with kids and passing this beautiful knowledge and skills and experiences that I've lived onto kids so that they can then build their own life with those tools. Like the same way I was gifted music when I was 8 years old and started guitar lessons, probably even before then, just my love of music.
That is a really beautiful note to end on. This has literally been one of the most amazing episodes I've ever recorded. I'm so grateful for you coming on and sharing your
I want to hug you, but
we'll hug
the microphones.
But there is 2 things we like to do before we get out of here now. So we're going to ramp it up. You get to shout out a local legend who you think should come on the show. And then, you're pretty much giving advice this whole entire podcast. So you get to give advice to someone, anyone in general, if someone needed a kick in the ass, what would be some advice that you would give to someone? Okay,
local legend who I really think you should have on this show, other than the
Pink.
Sage, Pink, yes, Sage, he's the rapper. My mate who rang me just before, Josh Lovegrove, you would chat with him. He helped me a lot on my journey. We're very similar, but he's a musician, incredible musician, and just taught me how. Basically, my bromance with him in a van taught me how to communicate properly. I learned more from my bro romance with him than I did from my romantic relationships. So, I think I'm gonna tell him to hit you up, and I think you should hit him up. And advice. I think all of the quotes I've just said, but it's gonna be okay.
So sick.
Well, I just want to hug everybody.
That's the best, man.
Can we just go down the street this hour and just hug people?
We should. We will. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Rob for coming on, and thank you to everyone who stuck with this whole entire podcast. It has been a longer one than usual, but I'm so grateful for his time. I'm so grateful for everyone else's time for listening. There is merch coming out. It's super sick. I'll just hang around, watch it, keep an eye on what's going on. Thank you for Stitch for providing the coffee, even though I'm unsponsored. Please sponsor me. Man, shit. You know what to do, guys. Hang around for the next one. Woo!